Hi, hello, namaskara. Welcome back to Co-Corner. In today's episode, we have with us another enterprising personality, a maxillofacial surgeon, artist, entrepreneur, and a wildlife photographer. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing more about his wildlife photography and conservation of wildlife. Let's welcome Dr. Ravi Hebballi. Welcome to Core Corner. Core Corner is nothing but, talking about a subject which may not be elaborate in its subject around it, but then, whatever little that we can capture or understand from your viewpoint. You are a maxillofacial surgeon, artist, actor, entrepreneur, and also wildlife photographer. Firstly, congratulations for donning so many hats. But today, more so, we're going to be concentrating about your journey as a wildlife photographer and conservation of wildlife. So, thanks for coming, first of all.
Rajani, I must thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure. I've been following your podcasts and your activities of Mars, and the various roles that you portray, which I'm mightily impressed. And it's always been a pleasure and a thought to come and, engage in some sort of a conversation with you. So finally, it's happened today, and I'm really happy to be here, and thanks for having me over.
Coming from a multifaceted personality like you, I will take it as a compliment. Thank you so much. So now let's begin with, what actually interested you or when did it interest you to get into this wildlife photography? Probably you first started off with photography and then, probably you just went on to explore the nature, and from further to that, probably a wildlife is what I think it could have been. But from your point of view, you could just tell us and the audience as to how it all began.
Well, the question sounds very simple. How did it start? But there's a very long story to it. To cut the long story short, uh, well, I've always had a passion towards photography from my younger days. Now, when we were growing up, generally people would ask, "What are your hobbies?" Nobody ever used the word passion when we grew up. I heard this word passion much later in life. So, it was all about hobbies. As children, you ask somebody, "What's your hobby?" I'm talking of those yesteryears.
Mm-mm-mm.
Dancing, singing, music, photography, cricket. These were hobbies. But later I understood today these two words are used together, which people think have the same meaning, hobby, passion. But there is a line that differentiates these
Separates
two
them.
words. Hobby is more uh, a casual word, a word that can be used at leisure. But passion is something that is very intense. I'm not talking about passion as in passionate and the thing that we see on social media, not that passion, but passion as such is a very intense word. That means the difference between hobby and passion is focus. The focus is the one which separates these two words. When I grew up, when I was in my later teens, I thought it was a hobby to do photography. Well, I couldn't do as much as I had thought of. One, because of the cost that was involved in photography.
Hmm.
And I come from family of doctors. So everything that was told to us was to study, become a doctor, and then that's your life. So the things that were hobby for us at that point of time was cricket, roaming around the streets. These were the hobbies that we pursued and we did with a lot of interest. But somewhere back of my mind, photography was always there. So I didn't know how to go about it because maybe my father wouldn't support me looking at the cost then. So when I finished my PUC, and at that point of time, my parents were in Libya. They
Mm.
were deputed to Libya along with my sisters. I have two sisters. So when they were there, I was alone in Bangalore. And that's when I was doing my second PUC. But there was the strong urge of photography that was, flashing in my mind now and then. And those days we had cameras like Agfa,
Mm-hmm.
Kodak,
Mm-mm.
and a
Correct.
small camera that came as a snapshot camera.
Mm.
And it was still film photography then.
Mm.
So since I was alone at home, when you're alone at home and you don't have parents around you, you have all the freedom to do what you want, to think the way you want. No askers, no tellers.
Mm.
And at that point of time, I know it's a little off track, but still, I would like to tell, since you asked me this story, I'll tell you this.
Yes.
During those years when I was 17, 18, in my second PUC, we had this magazine called as Debonair, which was supposed to be an adult magazine then, like Playboy and all that. So we used to, no parents around, so you had access to these books. What caught attention for me in those magazines was not just the beautiful bodies that we saw there, well sculpted models, but the way the photographs were made. That caught my attention. So the idea to pursue photography seriously got a little more intense at that point of time in my life. So a little bit of research those days was, there was no internet, of course. Trying to reach out, writing letters on inline letters. I reached out to the publishers of Debonair, and this took few weeks, few months. I'm not sure about the time frame. So when I got in touch with them through the regular post, inland post, asking for some kind of apprenticeship
Mm.
with the photographers.
Mm.
So I was guided to one person known as Mr. Pankaj Shah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Pankaj Shah was the ace photographer of Debonair. Lucky for me, his office was in Bangalore.
Oh.
Office as in his studio was in Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
If you know Rex Theatre,
Yeah.
and then we had Symphony Theatre.
Yeah.
So between Rex Theatre and Symphony Theatre is the street which goes down.
Mm.
There used to be one Amaravati restaurant those days. Next to Amaravati restaurant was his studio.
Mm.
So I went and met him. All this was during my PUC. Yeah?
Mm.
So I went and met him at a studio. Now that's more than 40 years. I don't really know how I impressed him. But then he really accepted me and let me into his studio where he used to shoot models. So I started off my photography journey then. I literally carried his equipment. I literally helped him adjust the lights those days. And that happened for about 3 months. I was also paid about 200 rupees a month as an apprentice. So that went on for about 3 months, and after that, my parents had to come back for various reasons which I don't want to tell now. Partly it was because of me.
Mm.
And when my parents got back, my house was full of Debonair posters, Playboy pictures, magazines all over the place. They said this is not happening. And my father gave me a piece of his mind and put me into dentistry. So that's how I joined dentistry. It was not by choice, it was by default.
Mm.
And then life took me in a different path altogether. I did my BDS and then my MDS and then my fellowship and practice surgery. But this thought of photography remained in my mind always. So I also traveled overseas. When I came back, started my practice, got a job. So I bought my first camera in 2009, 15 years back, with my money. And that where my journey in photography began. So those days we didn't have any schools or thing teaching photography where you needed to spend more time. Of course, I didn't have time in my practice and all that. So basically, I'm a self-taught photographer today, and it was all learned through making mistakes.
So when did this uh, passion for wildlife photography start
Yeah.
off as
Now, when I got
such?
into photography, I got into serious photography.
Mm.
My initial interest was still life photography. We call it still life, or we call it tabletop photography. From there, I moved into glamour photography,
Mm.
making portfolios.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, There are some of the yesteryear actress whose portfolios I've done way back in 15 years back. So I was more inclined towards uh, glamour photography, portrait photography, tabletop photography, food photography, those days, 15 years back or 14 years back. And then my co-brother, that's my wife's sister's husband, who's a pediatrician, is also a professional photographer. His interest is nature and wildlife. So I happened to travel with him to Kabini and Bandipur, and there's somewhere that caught my attention. The difference between still life photography, tabletop, glamour, portrait is all studio photography. That means we are playing with artificial light. When I started traveling out and shooting in daylight, it gave me a new different perspective altogether. Shooting outside the natural light is more exciting than shooting in a studio. In shooting in studio is like it's like making your 2 minute noodles. You just add everything to it and then your noodles is ready. Because everything here is controlled. If you're shooting outside, outdoor photography, it's nothing is in your control. You can't control the sun, you can't control the light, you can't control the shadow, nothing you can control. So that's more challenging. And that's where I fell in love with nature. And then I have not looked back.
So, Ravi, when we are talking about this wildlife photography, it's a very creative space to be in. For you're an artist also, from whatever I know, that you always used canvas, to express yourself. How does it change you as a person, as a photographer, personally and professionally? How do you view it? How do you view life and nature? It must be a different aspect of your life, Allah, to even perceive anything that comes under that sky.
See, basically, as an artist, I'm also a surgeon where certain amount of artistry is
Absolutely,
involved.
absolutely.
I also paint.
Yes.
So
So,
you,
how does this creative mind
so
work?
you look at things very differently. The eye see what the mind knows. It's not that the eye see what the mind wants, what the mind knows. So our view is totally different. What some people, when we go to, for example, I travel a lot to Kenya, which I'm going to talk later. So we have different landscape in different parts of Kenya. We have hills, we have rivers, we have lakes. So each place has got a different perspective. And if I'm looking at Masai Mara, we have hills on one side, we have lakes, we have a river. So if I'm standing here and looking at the hills, I would enjoy the hills. If I were to turn myself from 90 degrees, I wouldn't see the hills there. I would see the river and trees and shrubs. I appreciate that. So you have to have an open mind as an artist and not look for something particular. You enjoy whatever you see. When you start appreciating and enjoying what you see, that makes the difference between somebody who's very technical and somebody who's artistic. When you start using both sides of your brain, the difference is very different.
Yeah, I think, while you're saying this, I can understand that, what you're trying to also say, that, it changes your perception to think openly and accept everything in its own natural beauty. I mean, you don't have to alter it with anything else. And I think it applies also in your life, Allah. I mean, when you adapt this approach, I think the same can be applicable even in your life scenario. So that makes you so much more malleable.
One, it makes you more malleable, yes. It brings peace within yourself.
Correct. Absolutely.
Your mind is free. There is no chaos in your mind. You start thinking differently. You start thinking calmly.
There's so much peace.
Peace. Your frustrations are not there. Your level of tolerance increases. Your heart rate is under control. Blood pressure is under control.
You live longer.
I don't know about that, but yes. No, once you're at
Yes.
peace yourself,
Absolutely.
you create a peaceful atmosphere around
Correct.
you.
Absolutely.
As
Absolutely.
simple as that.
Yes. So, Ravi, if we have to now talk about particular location, because you have traveled to many countries, as far as I know. So, which is your favorite location that you would want to go back to and then be there in the nature?
Well, when it comes to, I've traveled to 39 countries.
Hmm.
I've done about a little more than one third of, one fourth of the number of countries that we have. If I have to go back from a nature's perspective, being a person who loves nature, of course, my first choice is Africa, Central Africa to be more precise, right from Tanzania, Ethiopia, Uganda, or Kenya, or Rwanda. So these are the places where there's a lot of nature,
Hmm.
a lot of flora, fauna,
Hmm.
good light, and good people. When we
Hmm.
talk of nature, it's not just birds, trees, animals. People also blend into nature. We have different tribes there. But if I have to keep Africa aside, which is the mecca for nature and wildlife, I would look at going to South America.
Hmm.
I'm not a regular traveler who goes with a checklist to see monuments, to see. I'm not a person to sightseeing. I would still go and appreciate whatever is there in front of me. I won't travel that extra mile to just go and see something because somebody else has seen and posted on social media. I won't do that. But yes, Sri Lanka is a place I would love to go. There's a
Hmm.
lot of nature.
Hmm.
Leave the politics aside, leave the economy aside. But to talk of nature, Sri Lanka is a good place to go. If you're looking at wildlife in Sri Lanka, Yala is a good place to go.
Hmm.
If you're looking at nature, Bali is a good place to go. I'm talking of the sea, the sun, the way sun behaves, and um, other cities are all typical concrete, so that won't really excite me. And yes, some parts of America also is good. If you
Super.
go to Michigan, Lake Michigan is a beautiful place for somebody who loves nature, and Australia is good for nature. I've heard about New Zealand. I haven't been there. Maybe it's on my plan for the next
That's
few years.
been
I don't know.
my top of the list too, actually, which I haven't explored yet. So hopefully someday we may be able to, achieve our dreams. So when you talk about this wildlife, do you have any specific species that draws your attention to, that you are attracted to, or you want to do more research about it?
So when we talk of wildlife, there are two things that come into it: the animals and birds.
Mm,
Birds also part of
mm,
wildlife. I'm not into birding.
mm,
That does not mean I don't shoot birds.
mm,
I do shoot birds, but it's by chance.
mm,
I'm more into mammals.
mm,
And one step narrowing it, I'm more into the cats.
mm,
I love the big cats.
mm.
So in Africa, we have three of the big cats: the lion, the cheetah, and the leopard. My favorite is the cheetah. I also have a tattoo of cheetah on me.
Mm,
So that's my favorite.
mm.
And I've been following cheetahs for the last 13 years in Kenya. So I've done a lot of research about cheetahs. In fact, my next book that is underway now, I'm talking about the big cats in Africa with more focus on cheetahs. That's my favorite animal. And we have about 400 odd cheetahs in Masai Mara alone. Most of them are shy and elusive, but we have about.
Is it a good number? Very good.
The numbers were little more, they came down, but then we have a lot of conservation that's happening. I'm also part of the conservation. So the numbers are increasing, touchwood, and will do well in the next few years. So my favorite animal is the cheetah.
Super. So when you talk about, the numbers have come down a little. So now we'll come a little closer to this conservation aspect of it, as a photographer. What do you contribute to this area of conservation of wildlife? How does a photographer contribute?
This is a very,
Because, for a layman like me, I wouldn't know. I'll only think that, probably you're going there to shoot pictures for your satisfaction, or probably for you to achieve some numbers, or, to be able to capture the cats of all varieties or all species. I'm not too sure about all these things. But then, my understanding is many photographers do that only for their library. But beyond that, I think, I'd like to know also as to what is a photographer's contribution in conservation of this wildlife.
see, conservation of wildlife is a very big word.
Yes.
And it starts from within our house to begin with. If you have children, we should start teaching them to have empathy, love animals. But since we have grown up and we are living in the urban, we have seen young kids today who pelted stones at the dogs,
Hmm.
the street dogs. And we also seen a lot of tourists throwing everything possible to animals, especially the elephants in our own forests, Bandipur, Kabini, Mudumalai, Periyar. So this is something that is an inbuilt feature in these individuals. As long as these individuals are there in the society and on this earth, we are worried about conservation. These are the people who are coming in the way of conservation. They are the people who are detrimental to nature and wildlife. They are spoiling the forest, they are troubling the animals. In a way, they are changing the personality of the animals. Animals attack humans, animals become man eaters. This is the reason. So let us start by educating our own people first. That is the first step of conservation. Next thing is urbanization, cutting trees, bringing the cities into the forest. Also, this is coming in the way of the habitat. That is when, if we talk of man animal conflict, it does not happen with the domestic, the herbivores. A man animal conflict will not happen between a man and a deer, will not happen between a man and a giraffe. It will not happen between a man and a zebra. It will just generally happen between man and the predators. Those are the cats. Why do the cats attack? Of course, this does not happen in Africa, but I'm talking of the Indian scenario now. We call them man eaters. It was called from the Jim Corbett time.
Correct.
Man eater. How did
Correct.
it happen? Now, how does it happen is a very simple thing. These cats, predators, are territorial animals. They have their territories marked. They don't go beyond their territory. It is their territory. But when the man enters its territory, they have to protect the territory. And they eat food by killing animals that are within their territory. But then you have encroached their territory. You have chopped off the trees. You have built your huts there and you tie your livestock there. So the cat attacks. It does not come to attack you. It comes to have food because you have encroached its area. So that is one of the most dangerous thing that is happening in our country, urbanization. Next thing that is detrimental is zoos. Zoos should be banned if you are talking of conservation.
Hmm?
You are bringing an animal out of its
Its
habitat,
habitat.
putting it in a captivity. How would you like yourself to put it in a cage? You are taking it away from its habitat.
Correct.
You are killing its killing instincts. You are giving it swiggy food, throwing food into its cage, which is not its food. The cats, I have understood animals. I am a conservationist. I am a naturalist today. I am also a guide in Kenya. The animals have to hunt, kill, and eat. That is what is there in their DNA, in their gene. That's what they have to do. The moment you bring them from there, from Namibia, put them in Madhya Pradesh, send spotted deer, they will not hunt. That's not the way they have grown. Put them in a cage, Morning and evening, go open the door, throw a piece of meat there. They're not going to eat that. Eventually, they'll eat because they can't starve for long. But you would have killed the animal from within. Zoo. Zoo is one of the most detrimental thing for the conservation. You go there, you see two giraffes. They are so sad. They might be a couple. They are so sad. They don't have their family. They don't have their habitat. They don't have life there. They don't even have the smell of the forest there. There are two zebras there. There are 4 lions here. There are 2 kangaroos there. You have imported animals from everywhere, put them wherever. That's not the way they were supposed to live. It is a glorified Parapana Agrahara, your central jail. These zoos are animals being punished for the crimes that they have not done. That's the jail for them. Next biggest disaster is circus. Of course, now because of lot of laws and rules that have come into picture, the circuses do not use animals. But in the past, circus were using animals. They were brought in, the ringmaster starved them, beat them, tamed them. The lion was not supposed to jump in a ring of fire. He was not born to do that. But you made him do it in a circus, right from Mera Naam Joker from that time. So these are the things which are against. So now when we are talking of conservation, first things we have to educate to remove all these things. First get the weed out. Clean up the mess first. And then start educating people about the animal. Once we start talking about the animal, talk about good things about nature, talk about sunrises, sunsets, talk about birds, talk about how it is nice to wake up with birds chirping around you.
So you mean to
Then
say that when you have a bunch of people who travel with you, which I think you do it quite often, so do you actually have workshops for them to educate about all these
we
things?
do everything. I do it on my tours.
Okay.
I start talking about nature.
Okay. It's not just about photography and how to use the
No,
lens.
photography comes later on.
Okay.
Photography is for somebody who's inclined towards photography. But we talk about nature, we talk about conservation, we appreciate nature. And I passionately tell my guests
In its organic form.
how exciting it is to wake up early in the morning, hear the birds, which we don't hear in the cities. We don't even see birds now. We used to see sparrows before in Virang. I have not seen sparrows now. We used to see crows. I have not seen crows for a long time in Bangalore. I don't know where they've gone. We just happen to see some pigeons here and there. So, but we try to tell them to appreciate nature in its raw form. And that is the beginning. And then, things happen after that. And then we start talking about animals, different species of animals, animal behavior, what each behavior of animal tells us. To give you a small example, we have zebras and we have wind blowing and we have a predator around. The zebras are the first which get to know there is a predator around. Their sense of smell is very sharp. So when there is a cat around, they get the scent if the wind is blowing towards them. If the wind is blowing away from them, they don't get the scent. Even if one zebra which was turning the other way gets the scent, he will alert the whole dazzle. A group of zebras known as dazzle. And how does he alert? He immediately puts his ears in front. So the others get the information. So this is animal behavior. This is what we teach or I teach on my tours. And that's how we look for cats. And that's how we eventually find cats. We don't get alarm calls as we would get in the Indian forest here, but we look for signs. So every animal has got certain behavior. And when we are in front of a cat, a big cat, maybe the lion or the lioness, we have to see certain body movements, body language, and understand the mood of the cat. These cats are all comfortable with us as tourists. They're comfortable with the jeeps, sound of the jeep, because they
Acha,
are born
okay,
with that.
okay.
When
I
it is a
wanted
small
to
cub,
ask you, uh, I mean, when you're actually doing this kind of a wildlife photography, you actually enter into their territory.
yes,
So how do you balance that?
yes,
How do you not disturb them getting into their territory while you are actually conducting your activity as a conservationist also and as a photographer also, yet crossing that line of actually entering into their habitat.
this is a
How do
very
you
yeah,
manage to do
this
this?
is a very interesting question. Firstly, let me tell you when these animals are born. I'm talking of 100 years back, hundreds of years. This activity is going on. People going into the wild. They used to go for hunting before.
Correct.
The Britishers who ruled India at the same time ruled Kenya also. So they used to go there to hunt animals. So these animals there are born hearing the sounds of the jeeps. They are
Oh,
born, the small cub knows. We go there, they hear the sound of the jeeps, they see people around. So we are not a threat to them. We are
acha,
part of
okay.
their
This is
environment.
something I mean, a news.
We are
Yeah.
part of their environment.
Okay.
Having said that, there is a space we have to maintain between us and that.
Them.
Suppose we see a pride of lion. A pride of lion today is about anything from 12 to 40 plus. In Masai Mara, I'm talking about. So we know, we understand what is the situation of the pride. If the pride has had its meal, they are resting, relaxing, the cubs are playing around, the lion also is there, the lion is also there. That is one scenario. The other scenario is if they have had a meal 3-4 days back, the cubs are young, so they would be hungry. So the lioness are alert. So we see the mood of the pride. And then
How would you know, Ravi? How?
that's what we have learned. That's the animal behavior. We we see how active they are. We see if they're intently looking at something.
Uh-huh.
Are they looking for a prey? Every animal has got its own behavior, which is what we have understood. I've done 41 trips till now, and I've been going there for 13 years. This is what I've learned. So the moment we see a pride, we understand the mood of the pride. If they've had a meal, they're comfortable, the cubs are playing. Once in a while, they get up, look at us, and go. Then we start inching towards them.
Mm-hmm.
They are not bothered. But if the cubs are hungry, cubs, the adult lion and the lioness can manage up to a week without food because they would have finished a big buffalo, so they are quite okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the cubs and the young ones get hungry in about 2-3 days. So they have to be fed.
Mm-hmm.
So the lioness are alert and looking for a prey.
Mm-hmm.
So then they decide
Hey,
between them.
1 second for sorry for interrupting. So you mean to say that they don't eat every day?
No, none of the cats eat every day.
Okay.
The cheetah eats once in 2 to 3 days. The lion eats or kills once in a week or maximum twice a week, depending on the size of the pride and the animal they kill. If they have killed a buffalo today, the Cape buffalo that we call, it will last for 5 to 7 days. If they have killed a zebra, it will last for 3 days. So after 3 days, they would have to hunt again, depending on the size of the pride. But
Mm-hmm.
a cheetah kills, eats as much as he wants, and then leaves the carcass. And then the hyenas, jackals, and all polish it off. The leopard hunts, kills, takes the carcass on a tree so that nobody else will steal the carcass, and it will eat for about week 10 days. So each one animal has got its own eating habits. So if the lioness is concerned about feeding the cubs, number one, or is concerned about protecting the territory if the cubs are very young, if they can sense another predator around the vicinity or in the around the territory, they are a little alert. And if we are close to them, if she just moves the tail and wags it,
Mm-hmm.
that means she says, I'm not happy. Just back off.
Oh, okay.
So we get the message, we back up, and then she's comfortable. If we see a leopard, if he is killed, if he's had a good meal, he's very happy with us. He'll give all. If you see some of my pictures, you'll say, I've got the best poses. But if he has had a failed hunt and he's irritated, or
Disappointed.
if he is hunted and a pack of hyenas have stolen his kill, he's irritated. If he's irritated, his tail is in the form of a C on the top. It's like that. He says, just back off. Don't mess with me. So this is what we need to be aware. This is what we teach the people who are in the jeep with us. And then I have gone as close as even 2 feet to a lion. I've actually heard the lion breathe. But because I know the lion is comfortable. So I've had lions come
My
into my
God,
jeep, put their head
so
into the jeep.
scary and so challenging. And when you get that close, it must be really scary also. And what are the challenges that you generally face, during such trips? And how do you overcome them?
One is scary. I won't say scary
It
because
is.
maybe I've got used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had cheetahs jump on my jeep, look into me. We are like about 2 feet from each other. So I've had this experience. So I wouldn't be scared then. But we always prime and tell our guests not to scream, not to make unwanted noises. Then they're okay. So no animal attacks you. That is something. That's the law of nature. The animal will never attack you. The animal will only defend itself. Defending itself is called as attacking by us. If you go into their space, it will only defend itself by moving the paw towards you. You call it attack, but I would call it's defending itself. So if we understand their mood, understand the animal behavior, if we maintain our space, then we are okay. But yes, sometimes the adrenaline rush is there.
Have you come across anybody who has fallen prey to this?
No, not in Africa. Of course, in South Africa, there are certain videos that I've seen where animals have,
Attacked.
because that is people did not follow the rules. They got off the jeep, walked, and then which we are not supposed to do. There are rules that have to be followed, regulations that have to be followed. If you stick to that, there is no problem. And animals also, like elephants. Elephants' temperament is very unpredictable. So we understand the elephant behavior also. Most of the herd of elephants have young ones within them, the baby elephants. So when they are together, if we see the baby elephants, they're always surrounded by the mothers in the particular herd. So we maintain that distance. Sometimes we do get closer if there is a track. That is, we are not supposed to leave the track in any of these forests in Africa. We have to follow the track only. You can't do off-roading there. So when we are going on the track, if there is a herd of elephants closer to the track, we just don't go. We stop at a distance, see how their mood is. If they start kicking dust, or if generally they don't trumpet so much as we hear or see on videos, they kick dust first. And they will start protecting the baby. All of them will go in circle. That means they are worried about the baby. So we just stop. We switch off our engine. And then they'll move to a side. And then we go. But if you go without understanding these signs, if you go closer to them, they will try to come towards you. Not charging as they charge in the Indian forest. They don't charge like that there. But they'll tell you, Bagar, I'm not happy with you. Coming closer. So if we back off then, just reverse your vehicle, then they're comfortable. They move away. So these are things that we have to really keep a real good watch and then go. Then we are safe. Then there's nothing to really worry. But we do see some videos. Recently there was a video where, elephant and I think Namibia or somewhere comes and, lifts a jeep and actually topples the jeep, and then nobody was hurt luckily. All the guests actually escaped unhurt. One of them just had some bruises and fractures or something like that. That is because they weren't very close, even after the elephant was trumpeting. So either the guide was an idiot who didn't understand the animal behavior, or he was a newcomer, or he was just being careless, did not value the life of the people around him. So these things, it's an accident, and this is like a man-made accident. Otherwise, generally in Central Africa, we have not heard of any of this because there we are all very strict. I own a company in Kenya. So we have our own team. We are strict. We follow the rules and regulations by the book. You're not supposed to do, you're not supposed to do. Simple. There's no discussion in that. There's no negotiation on that. Many times my guests also tell, come, let's go closer. I say, no, we are not going. ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಬೈನಾಕುಲರ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ವಿಲ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟುಮಾರೋ ವಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಗೋ no off-roading. So when we follow this, I think we are fine, we are good. So this it's absolutely safe as long as you stick to the rules and regulations.
You're such a good orator and a narrator. It's so nice. Now I understand. Now I do understand, why people come to Magic Carpet. What is Magic Carpet all about, Ravi?
Magic Carpet is my baby in Africa. It's my travel company. So we are into wildlife safaris basically, conservation and basically protecting the wild and nature. So I have a Kenyan partner known as Patrick. We both run this company. We have an office in Nairobi and we regularly do tours, taking groups. We don't do.
So, is there any age restriction for anybody to travel along with you, or is it
No, I've
open
had
to everybody?
in March I had a family with a child which is 4 years old,
Hmm.
as young as 4 years, and last year I had somebody who was 76 years with a replaced hip. So age is not a restriction. But younger than that, we don't take if the parents cannot control the children. It's also the responsibility of the parents to make sure they can control the children. If younger than that, babies start crying in the jeep.
Correct.
So it will be a nuisance for themselves as well also an hindrance for us to go ahead with the safaris. So we regularly do tours and I kind of do niche tours. First thing is I don't take strangers on my tour. It is friends or friends of friends or with reference
Why so?
because I'm not a travel agent and I don't do this for a living.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I just want
Fair
to keep the
enough.
ball rolling. We have a business there. Of course, we had our bad time during COVID. So we are rebuilding our business. So that does not mean I take numbers, volumes, because I don't want this checklist travelers to come with me. Finished lions check. And now I want to see leopard. And now I want to giraffe. No, it doesn't work that way. We don't own the animals there. So we cannot promise anything. But these are the people who can be a nuisance on the tour. So whenever I take somebody on the tour, I meet
I
the
think
group.
you are a wildlife photographer, come conservationist, plus a mindful thinker. So that's what separates you from the other travel agents. Probably you know the idea of how they behave in a forest and how we need to be patient enough and then how not to hurry through everything and how to be careful and also enjoy at the same time. So I think that's what makes you different from the regular travel agents who might have a set list, like you said, who'd start at 8 in the morning or probably 6 in the morning and then run to, tick off the animals and then come back to the room if they find one.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾಳೆ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ 5:30 ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. It doesn't work that with me. So you also use this word enjoy and I also want my guests to be safe.
Safe, yes.
That is important.
Safe, yes.
So when I do get calls almost on a daily basis, oh, I got your number from Srinivas. His friend went with you on a tour. So people show a lot of interest. Then I explain to them. I understand what they're looking at. And next thing is I meet them. If they are in Bangalore, I meet them face to face. Anywhere else in Bangalore, I have a Zoom call. I need to understand what you're looking at, if I can cater to you. Because I'm not a regular run-of-the-mill travel agent. I can't do that. If I understand that we are in the same wavelength, we both understand the language that we speak, then we will proceed. Sometimes I overprice my tours so that they back off. Because I know they are not going to fit into my kind of tours that I do. Because I will understand the first 5-10 minutes I talk with them, I'll understand what their requirements are, what they're looking at. So then, I don't want to have a bad scene in Africa. And I don't want to spoil the reputation that I built over 13 years. So I don't want one guest to spoil that. I would rather not do the tour.
Where do you see future of wildlife?
Wildlife is good.
I think now it's picked up quite a bit. I mean,
It's
at least
picked up
people.
good. We have a lot of information that's being dissipated on social media. People are doing good about it. Of course, they're doing it in different forms like reels and
and
posts and
and
whatever.
also I think, even youngsters have taken interest to it. Earlier it used to be decided by the parents as to where you'd go for your vacation, but I think now children have that liberty to decide for themselves as to what they choose to see. I mean, because of, thanks to all the books and all the environmental issues that they cover in their topics in their school curriculum, I think they're also aware. Earlier Namigella, I don't think we had that kind of an exposure where we could decide, or to go to a forest. It had to come through the horse's mouth, in a literally, right?
Yeah. No,
So
thing is, the future looks good. I don't see a threat to that. But what is important is the consistency.
consistency,
People
yes.
who are doing these reels, posts, and all, I've been also following it.
Mm-hmm.
Their patience level is very limited.
Mm-hmm.
Their consistency is questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Their intensity has highs and lows. They get excited with every new thing that comes. This is what my observation is. So we cannot entirely rely on these people to propagate conservation. Because this idea, they come with me 7 days, 8 days in Mara in parts of Kenya, come back. That Jose is there for 10, 15 days before something else catches their attention. But in those 10, 15 days, if they can propagate a little bit, that will be good. So these people, Atakunda Lekakila, we cannot take them long term. But the other things that we would really rely upon is educating children from a schooling
Yes.
level,
Hmm.
university level,
Yes.
and also tour operators, uh, travel log people who do travel logs, writers have to consistently start. I mean, keep talking about it. That's when it'll get into the
Ingrained
skull.
into the
Yeah.
system. Yes.
Once in a while, ಯಾವಾಗಲ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ it doesn't really help. But it'll add to a little bit of the whole process. But we cannot wholly depend on that. But uh, people should appreciate nature also in its raw form. And for that, it has to be inbuilt. The
I know it
blueprint
has to be
it
innate. It can't be taught.
has to be in the blueprint, inbuilt.
Yes.
It's an inbuilt feature.
Yes.
So whoever has that inbuilt feature can try to propagate. Not much, but the governments are also doing their bit.
Okay.
Definitely, I know more in detail about the African government,
Mm-hmm.
especially more so about Kenya,
Mm.
because I've been actively involved with them for 13 years now, 14th year. In Kenya, we are known as KWS,
Mm.
Kenya Wildlife Service,
Okay.
which is a very good organization, got good funding. They are 100% into conservation. Poaching was a big threat we had in the
Mm.
past,
Mm-hmm.
but it's come down drastically
Mm.
now, especially poaching of rhinos
Oh.
for the horn.
Oh. Okay.
You didn't know about it?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, this was rampant. Some moron somewhere,
Mm.
ancient, told that the horn of the rhino is an aphrodisiac. Did you
Arre
know about it?
yaar.
So there were a lot of people who were after that, and it had got a huge international market. I do not want to name the countries, but they're sad
Fine.
people. They were after this. So poaching was rampant. In we just lost rhinos, and after
Sad.
this drone thing came,
Mm.
drone actually showed the poachers where the rhinos were. So now drones are banned in our forests.
Great.
Drone photography is banned.
Great.
And then they came with very strict laws for poachers.
Drone, even otherwise in a forest area, is such a horrific thing to be doing,
Yeah.
Allah.
I don't know how it works in India. I'm not really sure, but in most part of Africa, it's banned now. People had access to animals. They exactly knew where the animal was, and they went and killed and chopped off the horn and took it away. And other animals for the animal parts, skin of the lion, the paw of the lion, the tooth of the lion, the claws of the lion, all these things. People are crazy. People here also have the tiger claw and all that. So those were a threat, but
So
poaching,
heinous, actually. So heinous. Ontara.
it's inhuman. It's brutal. So now poaching, the laws are very strict. I wish they do that in India. Poaching, if we have rules timing in the national reserves in Kenya, morning 6:37 onwards till 6:30. After 6:30, you cannot be in the parks. We call them the game parks. The forests are known as the game parks or the game reserves. You have to get back to wherever you're staying, your resort or your lodge or your camp. One is you cannot switch on the lights. 6:30 sunset, so you have to be back in your lodge. If you can't drive in the night, it's a threat to the animals. There are no night safaris now. Used to be in the past. There are no night safaris because people just ran over the animals. They drove over them. So that was banned. So after 6:30, if you are in a place where you're not supposed to be, in the reserve, in the game park, you have to give an explanation to the rangers. Rangers are very strict. We have jeep rangers who are in the jeep. We have foot rangers also in Kenya. If you cannot explain, then there will be your question. You're taken for questioning. But if you are caught in the game park with a weapon, you have to explain why you are here with a weapon. There is no trial, there is no court, there is no law. You cannot hire an advocate, nothing like that. If you are caught in the park with a weapon, you are a poacher, period. There's no discussion.
Super.
You are sentenced to death. Within a month, you'll be hanged. Poaching
It
came down
needs such
drastically.
stringent actions. I think,
Poaching
otherwise you.
came down drastically 2018 onwards. We have not lost rhinos after that. And it's very difficult to bribe people there, bribe the poachers, the rangers and all.
So disciplined, Allah. I mean,
No, if you want the crime rate to come down, increase the punishment.
correct.
That's all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Make the punishment strict.
So
Crime rate will
severe
come
that,
down.
nobody can get away with it. Nobody should
You
even
talk
think
the Middle
about
East,
it.
you steal, your hands are chopped off. Nobody steals. You go do something to a woman, you're hanged publicly, finished. Women are safe there. So same thing, animals have to be safe here, make the law strict. Finally, it all boils down to that. If the law is strict, the crime rate is low. Our animals are safe.
Super. It's so interesting, Ravi, to sit and actually talk to you that we can, sit for hours together or probably even days together to understand everything about, your trips, your experiences and the challenges, the way you're conserving wildlife as a contributor in the form of a photographer. But I think we need to do it another time with another episode. But before we wind up, I would like to know what Ravi Hebballi relates to most and what is his one takeaway as a maxillofacial surgeon, as an actor, as a singer, as an artist, and as a wildlife photographer.
What Ravi Hebballi relates to is a very abstract question.
Yeah.
I won't find words to answer, but then
What connects with you? Which profession connects with you the most? In the order of your favorites, at least.
that's a very difficult question to answer. ನಾಲ್ಕು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿದೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಯಾರು ಮುದ್ದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ
So you,
ಅಂದಂಗೆ.
you relate to all of it equally well?
Yeah, different times different, but for me, something that keeps me happy.
I think
And
of all the things, something must be giving you a
something that keeps
little
me
more
happy,
happiness than the others.
something that helps me go back to bed with a smile on my face, and something that makes me look forward for the next morning is my interaction with nature. Maybe that I would put it number one on the list now. So every time I go to Africa, I'm leaving next month again to Kenya. Every time I go now, 42nd time, it's like I'm going for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And every time, every day when I start for the safari, it's a new day for me. I would have seen the animals, hundreds of them, hundreds of times. I've lost count of the number of safaris I've done till date. But every time I see a Pride of Lime, I'm equally excited like the guest with me in the Jeep. See, that is something that makes you enjoy your profession. It gives you a freedom. But no freedom comes without a price to pay. Yeah. So the price that I have paid, everything is always greener on the other side. People who know me from near and from far think, oh, Ravi has got a great life. Every month he's traveling. Yes, I'm traveling. I have a great life. A great life is again very abstract, it's individual perception. I have a great life. But people perceive it in a different way. When they say great life, they think I might be having a ranch there, with horses there, I might be having a yacht there and things like that. Not that. My bank balance is not big. Maybe I would have had a big balance if I still continued my profession as a surgeon, as a teacher, taking a salary every month. Yes. But then somewhere I had to compromise for that. So here I'm living a life. So that's what makes it happy for me. I don't have a huge bank balance, but yeah, but I'm happy. My bank balance is in the form of the people that I know in Africa,
Hmm.
my friends there,
Invaluable.
the experience that I've had, and the paintings that are hanging on different walls in across the globe now. So that's where I have gone. I have published this first coffee table book, and about 800 copies have gone out. So it is lying on somebody's coffee table somewhere across the globe. So that matters to me.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, when I'm not there, that's what matters than the bank balance that I leave behind.
Absolutely.
And the bank balance that you leave behind when you're no more is the extra work that you put in for somebody else to enjoy.
Makes
So
sense.
that's what I believe
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely makes sense. Thank you. Thanks for being here and then having this kind of a wonderful conversation. It was really insightful, informative, and interesting. I can't tell anything more than this, but it was really engaging and then eye opener for so many of us, who wouldn't have a beautiful explanation of how this ecosystem works. Thank you so much, Ravi Hebballi,
Thank
for
you so
being
much, Rajani.
here.
And after a long time,
We
I've had
should
a.
be doing this again, I think, because you have an ocean of subjects that you can cater to and then discuss about, especially when it comes to this photography and wildlife. So I think we should have more episodes with you. I mean, talk about every single species that you have encountered and then you've had that experience, spend those moments, and to be able to share it with us who would also be understanding.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. After a very long time, I've had a meaningful interaction like this at a serious level, but I always do. And I have not been using my real frivolous thing here, trying to be a little more serious today with
No,
a good friend after ages talking to each other. Like we say in Swahili, Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.